We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're continuing our conversation on justice and the Justice Department with Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Thanks for coming back, Scott. Now, it's going to be quite the shake-up over in the various alphabet agencies and the national intelligence agencies. The intelligence community, I believe it's under the banner, the 50-odd things under the banner of that. Because you've had Matt Gaetz in the door, out the door, quicker than you can shake a stick out. You've got Pam Bondi now set for the AG position. You've got Kash Patel heading over to the FBI, presuming they get the nominations through Congress. But what kind of a shakeup does it represent to have essentially all new people in, and for them to be essentially what they are, which is Trump loyalists?
Well, I think it's important to discuss them differently because they're different people with different pluses and minuses, and how they come at the thing. I know more about Pam Bondi than I know about Kash Patel, so I can comment more about her. And I wonder if she is such a Trump loyalist because of her. Before she was a Trump stalwart supporter, she was a stalwart supporter of Mitt Romney. And anytime I mean, those two persons are quite different in what their policy prescriptions are, as well as their personal approach to politics. And I'm just a little skeptical of somebody who is all in, for
Pierre Delecto,
such disparate candidates. And I wonder, gee, maybe they're just very much interested in being next to power, and rather than sort of true believers, which I think Mr. Patel would be more in the true believer bucket. But maybe Ms. Bondi, maybe her staunch support and championing Romney's candidacy was just part of her development as a politician. There is one other thing about Pam Bondi that I would be cautious of from the anti-establishment side, which is she was the Attorney General of Florida when George Zimmerman was arrested and prosecuted for the death of Trayvon Martin. Now, I happen to be very well read in the history of that case. Some cases, when you follow legal events, some cases just, hook you in terms of their interest. And I was hooked by that case, and I know kind of a lot of the ins and outs of it. And one of those ins and outs is that Pam Bondi, as Attorney General, had access to a lot of evidence that the public did not have access to, that exonerated or would tend to exonerate George Zimmerman, and yet supported the prosecution of George Zimmerman, and some might say the inflaming of racial tensions and the notion that somehow this was a crime by a white guy or a white Hispanic, as I think the one of the big newspapers famously labeled George Zimmerman as sort of attacking this black child, rather than a black teenager set upon and attacked a white man who happened to be armed and defended himself, which I think that's what the courts have now said, and that the facts bear out. And so it's not a small thing if Ms. Bondi did do what she has been accused of doing by some conservative commentators, namely concealing exculpatory information for George Zimmerman. Now, the Attorney General of a state is supposed to be a person who defends the rights of the citizens of that state. And, if she was unwilling to do that against the mob calling for Zimmerman's head, led by Ben Crump, then that presents a problem for her anti-establishment bona fides. And that, one would presume that the vast majority of Trump supporters would want an attorney general who stood up for the rights of a one person against the establishment, aligned against them under false pretenses, which is what may be present there. And I just think it's a question that Pam Bondi needs to address, because she was the AG in Florida at the time and had access and made these decisions. It wasn't just strictly like supervisory. She made the decision to appoint Angela Corey, the special prosecutor who disgraced herself with her kind of indictments against Zimmerman and some other actions. So anyway, that's, something I expect to see bubble up during the confirmation process. Because if a Democrat senator who is libertarian-ish can attack her, Pam Bondi, from the right, as it were, I think that'll be an effective attack, and it's one she should expect to confront, I think.
Yeah, there's going to be, I think, I mean, the storm is already brewing within the media, and what we're finding is that there's various lines of attack that they're testing out, they're road testing with the public because these confirmation hearings will be public affairs, and each senator will be looking to make his or her mark on the proceedings. They want to either be the person who championed this person to get them into office, or they want to be the person who brought down Trump's candidate. And I think they're being road tested quite a lot in the pages of the media at the moment to see what will be an effective line of attack. Now, so if the confirmation process is completely drawn out, as would be a fairly decent political tactic for the Democrats at this time, what can Trump do in terms of appointing an acting director to these agencies and federal officers?
Well, there's a complicated series of federal laws and regulations that concern this, some of which Trump may try to challenge with his actions, meaning, these things haven't been borne out and tested in the courts. And we'll see if maybe Trump has an appetite to challenge them. But one of the things he could do, for instance, I believe, is appoint, for instance, Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, as acting Attorney General, even as Ms. Bondi is up for the permanent position. Because of the way the rules are written, that they don't want current nominees who have never been in the agency to serve as an acting as a replacement for the actual confirmation process. The impetus is to have him submit candidates to the confirmation process rather than avoid it. But we'll see, how Donald Trump is able to use the system to implement his own ideas of what should happen there.
The palace intrigue increases. Scott Cosenza, thanks ever so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mark.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.